Good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. We're going to have all three this morning. As both of our listeners will remember, we always try to start Viewpoint with a kudo or two. I think I'm not stroking the chief here because I don't drive that much. I'm not likely to get a ticket. And so on a serious note, really a serious note, all this street unrest that we see border to border and coast to coast, fomented by people who have no good in mind for anybody else except themselves. But I think, Mrs. Busby, it would be appropriate if we just had a big kudo and a nod or two in the direction of our men in blue out there on the streets every day here in what I call Mayberry, and I do that kind of half jokingly. We don't have the kind of problems that the officers in the bigger communities. So, but it's a serious problem if you're got a pair of blue pants, a blue shirt, and a badge on. You're subject to some problems. So, to the chief and his staff, our kudos for today. Now let's get right down to serious business and introduce our.
We'll tell the people who we're chiefing here.
with whom we're trying to gather favors.
Yeah. Paul Adams, of course, is the police chief in Lincoln, America, and we're proud to have him. And you know, I like to second what Bill said. This has been a great place to raise my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids. Honest to John, I feel lucky as you look at the paper and listen to the news. You think, by George, I'm glad I don't live in Chicago. Thank you, God. You know? And where did the idea come from that somehow we've zeroed in on police departments, law enforcement, and anybody who dresses like you do, Chief Adams? Why did we decide they were the blackguards? Where did that come from, for crying out loud?
Oh, God knows what the answer to that is. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, it's a deep issue. It is, and instead of correcting the issues that led up to an officer being involved in any type of situation, that's what there's always. It's kind of like the Titanic. When the Titanic hit the iceberg, everybody focused on the fact that it hit the iceberg. Well, there was a series of mistakes before it ever hit the iceberg.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's concentrate on the issues that led up to it. A lot of the incidents that all these officers have been involved in were precipitated by somebody else doing something wrong in the first place. If they wouldn't have done something wrong, then we would have never been involved, and there would have never been a problem. So it boils down to that.
So there you go. I mean, if you're not speeding down the roadway, you won't get a ticket.
It's a cause and effect relationship.
Duh.
Which reminds me, on a lighter note, guy was going down the highway and he was really boring down, and a trooper caught him and he couldn't catch him fast enough. He really looked at his mirror and saw him. He kept on going. Well, they finally got him down the road down Beekson or somewhere, and the officer said to him something about, what was wrong? Well, he says, my wife just left me and I thought you were bringing her back.
Jim, you're laughing at that. I won't tell your wife.
On a lighter note. On a heavier note, not much of a lighter than that. You have a table of organization, TUI, that requires 28 people on your staff, Chief?
Yeah, right now we got 27 right now. We just got a grant to hire another one, so we'll have 28 finally. So closer to back to when I started, we actually had 29. So we let two go during when we consolidated our dispatch. Those officers were supposed to come back, but the city had financial problems at the time, so they ended up not hiring those two. And then we had to lay off two in about 2000. I think it was about 2000 when the stock market crashed and stuff.
That sounds like a healthy number of people, but that's 365 days a year, 3 shifts a day, I'm assuming.
We're on 12-hour shifts, so we got 2 shifts a day.
Okay, 2 shifts a day.
Yep.
Well, still.
It's long shifts.
Say, that's 12 hours. That's something that I didn't realize.
How do you get by with that? I thought they had rules and regulations about how long people could work.
Well, yes, in certain circumstances, but these 12-hour shifts have actually worked out probably the best for us, because when we were on 8s, we had a swing shift, and
Yeah.
it was absolutely terrible because in fact, I worked those swing shifts, and I had to come in Monday and Tuesday, work those afternoons 1 to 9, then come back in Wednesday morning 5 to 1, have Thursday, Friday off, and then come Saturday night and Sunday night working nights. And it's like, you don't know what
You didn't know whether you were on first or not,
Exactly.
did
You
you?
got a lot of
Exactly.
balls bouncing in the air, then
Oh, yeah.
juggling schedules around.
Yeah.
But look, it gave you a great lesson in keeping track of appointments and things,
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
it?
It did. Yeah.
Gosh.
Got to be organized.
Let's get serious a minute about confinement of, quote, prisoners or people who need to be confined even 24 hours. The COVID thing has made a huge difference in your operation in your city jail.
Oh yeah. Well, we don't have a city jail. We take everything to the county jail. So.
Oh, that's right. I knew that.
Yeah, we do have a holding room, I guess you could say, to hold them temporarily, but we don't hold them overnight. So we always take ours to the Logan County Jail. And, of course, you get one person in there with COVID, and then you got another problem. So,
Oh, boy.
oh, yeah. So,
I think they were awfully lucky and smart at the prisons. It just finally got some of their people, but with those confined populations, boy, if something gets going, you'd have yourself
I
a
think they're
melody
having
house.
problems at the prisons right now, according to the news last
Yeah.
night. So, yeah.
If we don't take a couple minutes break and recognize our sponsors, they may want to confine you and I.
There
So
you
go
go.
right ahead, Mr. Ash. Right back live in the studios here. Program is Viewpoint, of course. We appear every Wednesday morning. While Busby and old man Gossett, our guest this morning, one of the luminaries in our community, quietly, and I mean this in a serious way, quietly goes about doing his job that results in the best results for the entire city. Our Chief of Police, Paul Adams. I had to ask him off air this morning what's going on with he and my wife, because my wife says he's a nice man.
Like that's highly unusual, huh?
So, Paul's been good enough and has, when we ask him from time to time, to come up and visit with us about what's going on in the city of Lincoln and law enforcement. I asked him off air about all of the rules and regulations. There's a lot of paperwork that has to go on in law enforcement, no matter what level, even at Hartsburg, I guess. Seriously, is that a big problem for you, shuffling papers and trying to follow edicts and ordinances and so forth?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, recently we just passed a chicken ordinance, so, there's always something that for some reason, the police department's always involved in it. Everything that gets passed and legislated in some way, shape, or form. So, because they call the police, so or call the dispatch. Dispatch calls us and says, "Hey, can you go deal with this?" So then we got to figure out who is the best person to handle this situation. For instance, we had a chicken that was running loose one day, and our guys went down there and tried to chase the chicken down, but we couldn't even catch the chicken. So rather than
That'd be
shooting
a
it, we told them, if you ever caught the chickens, let us know, and we'll come back and try to help facilitate getting it someplace. So,
you're going to hire a new member of the police force, and the modus operandi of that is that your new hire goes over to University of Illinois for, or is it Champaign Police for little training? Not a little training, a lot of training. Tell us how that goes, Chief.
So, we're going to be hiring another officer. Typically, we like to hire what we call a lateral officer, so they come from another agency. They're already trained, they're already ready to go. So instead of 6 months in training, we can get them back out on the street within at least a month. Train them on what we do and how we do business here, and we got somebody right out on the street. So otherwise, they would come in as a new hire, which is what you referenced, and we've been sending ours actually to the Macon County's Law Enforcement Training Center. They just opened up a new training center a couple of years ago now. They've been operational, and they've got state-of-the-art facility, state-of-the-art training. They've got what they call the FATS machine, which is you got a screen, and then they have little role playing with the screen and shoot, no shoot type of situations. And they got a beautiful range. They got a canine training facility there now. So it's actually a pretty nice facility. So they'll do 14 weeks down there.
That's a long time.
Yeah, and then they'll come back with us, and then they'll do probably about 3 to 4 months with FTO, with an officer riding with them, making sure he's doing everything correctly, and make sure his reports are all up to par, and learning all the paperwork that you referenced earlier. So,
Yes. Now, what will an officer start out at? Is it a livable situation? Because you guys don't get the most money in the world.
No.
First place, we have a budget here in Lincoln. That,
yeah. Yeah, we have those financial issues that always kind of taper. We are underpaid compared to some of our comparables.
I'm sure you are. Yeah.
But most of the guys on this department, they don't. It's not necessarily the pay that we're after. It's the fact that we're trying to do good in our community. So
You still wouldn't want to go to Chicago, would you?
no,
Lord,
yeah,
no.
we'd much rather.
Lord,
Not
do it
so
down
much.
here, yeah.
No,
We like the small Mayberry community.
How'd you like to work with that mayor?
Yeah,
That's another story.
exactly. We like the support from our community down here. So
Well, exactly. Do you have a problem with anybody driving impaired anymore? They used to call it DUI, driving under the influence.
Yep.
Is that still a major matter?
Oh yeah. We still have our issues.
Never gonna go away,
No,
will it?
never
Yeah.
going to go away. There's been too many people that died that in this community that personally I've known a few of them that they shouldn't have died if they would have just given the keys to somebody else. And we try to prevent that by. Prevent those deaths by being aggressive with the DUIs. And some people don't like us driving around the bars, but I'm sorry, I'd much rather you be afraid to get in your car and drive drunk than hit a pole. So
Well, now that marijuana is legal here in the state of Illinois, and that's the way it is. We have to accept that. I'm not sure it's a good idea, but that's neither here nor there. What I think.
Well, they didn't ask us, Bill.
No, they didn't ask us. But any event, impairment of marijuana, that's the same thing as being impaired with alcohol, is it not?
yes, so you got to have 8 nanograms of cannabis in your bloodstream to be under the influence of cannabis. Which is kind of a hard. Personally, I believe we're testing for the wrong substance, but because the THC inside your bloodstream, it ramps up very quickly once you smoke it, but it tapers off just as quickly inside your bloodstream. But what that does is starts causing a chain reaction inside your brain to make you feel the way you feel, and that lasts for hours, unfortunately. So you could be under the influence
For quite a while.
for quite a while,
Really?
but your THC levels are going to be well below that 8.8 or 8 nanograms within a few hours. So
648-5510. Now, some of you reside in the city, so it's your chief of police, and you may have a comment, question. Just be kind to him, because we'll cut you off in a hurry. No, seriously, I want to be very serious about this. We are lucky to have the police force that we enjoy here in this community. I'm not trying to stroke him, because I don't drive that much. I'm not likely to get a ticket. But we are lucky. And we're lucky to have the administrator we do. Our chief of police has always been very kind to Judy and I when we've asked him to come to appear with us on Viewpoint. And so this is your opportunity to ask any questions, or if you've got a legitimate complaint, you can go ahead. He'll accept that. He's got big shoulders. So 648-5510. Paul, and you, do we have a dog?
Police dog?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. The doggone
canine.
canine.
Yeah.
Well, the old man has lost it for sure. I couldn't come up with a word. Well,
Yeah, we do have a canine. He's a Belgian Malinois. His name's Ace, and Officer Ryan Sullivan is his handler right now, and they're doing a great job and have just surpassed their 500th drug sniff, I guess you could say. So they're really doing a good job, the deployment.
What do you think in your heart of hearts when you hear about this defunding? How many spoonsful of stupid does one have to take as a city father to decide we're going to defund the police?
Well, we always have those people that like to express their opinions, and there's like we say, the silent majority that loves us and cares for us and takes care of us. And luckily in our community, I think we've got a very good community that supports their police officers. But our politicians need to understand that, yes, there are those that have loud voices and are chewing on your ear, but you got to pay attention to that silent majority too, because they have their opinions also. So they need to be in contact and find ways to reach that silent majority to find out exactly what's going on in their community, rather than just to listen to the small population that's barking the loudest. So,
well, when you take a group the size of, for instance, the Lincoln Police Force, it's not, I'm sure, unheard of that there would be one who would be the least desirable guy and one who'd be the most desirable guy. That's the whole world operates on these spectrums. But you can't, geez, I don't know, what do you do if you call and say somebody's trying to break into my house? Well, we only take those calls on Tuesdays or something.
Yeah,
it just makes no sense.
I mean, there's
Jim, we've come a long way since Charlie Tiffany used to go around and rattle the front doors of the merchants. Had a long nightstick and a pistol that stretched from here to the bottom of my leg.
Oh, yeah.
And the radio call was, you go to around the corner on Chicago Street, and if there's a light on above the sign at Malloy's Restaurant, that means you better call in. Now that's how sophisticated we were back in those days.
We still rattle doors, but we don't have that anymore.
And the police call above Malloy's Restaurant, that was up to date.
Oh, yeah.
Your equipment budget, that's got to be a real problem, because you need equipment and all kinds of different equipment, pretty sophisticated stuff for the most part, and you have to wrestle that and see you have so much money, and you have to say, we want this or we need this. Want and need are two different things in this community.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing is, body-worn cameras have been proposed, and, that's the technology that's been...
And that's pretty expensive stuff.
It is. It's the storage. It's expensive. I mean, even if we were to go with body-worn cameras, we got to find $20,000 in our budget to figure out how to pay for this on a yearly basis. So it's just one of those issues that we have that, I mean, do I get the new equipment that the officers need to protect themselves, or do I get this, which is, it helps with justifying the officers' actions, but it's unfortunate that we've come to this point where we've always got to be justifying the officers' actions rather than trust those good officers that we do have. So.
Yeah, that puts you in a bad position, doesn't it?
It does.
It really does.
Go ahead, Mrs. Busby. Go right ahead. Juggling the shift for your men, 12-hour shifts. I'm a little bit surprised at that. I did not realize that was a requirement. That requires a circus juggler to 27, 28 men working around a 12-hour shift.
Yeah. It does. But it's easier than the 9-hour shifts that we were on from an administrative standpoint, because 9 hours were always rotating, and so you never knew when somebody was going to work. At least with the 12 hours, it gives us, the officers, a little bit more stability, and every other weekend they essentially have off. So they'll work Monday, Tuesday, they'll be off Wednesday, Thursday, they'll work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But then the opposite week, they'll be off Monday, Tuesday, they'll work Wednesday, Thursday, and be off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So the officers actually really like that, because it fits into to have a personal life outside of law enforcement. So,
of course, did you say when we first sat down here that they were dealing with regulations on tickets?
Regulations on tickets.
On writing of tickets? Is that what you mean?
Well, on how they were. I thought you said something about tickets. That the council, I'm sure,
they can never have enough tickets. Is that right?
Yeah. We're always having issues with ordinances and trying to write those citations and stuff like that. So, there's always the issue of, you get called to a situation. The one person wants to complain on the other. The officer didn't see the issue, but somebody wants a citation written, and we got to try to back that up by evidence and witness testimony to help support the actual issuance of a ticket. Because issuing a ticket is essentially looked as an arrest in the courts. So you have to have probable cause to write a citation. So when you got a he said, she said type of situation, it's really hard to write those citations in those types of situations. So normally we would write a report, send it to the state's attorney, and then if we get any more further information or evidence, we will support that later and supplement those reports to the state's attorney's office or city attorney's office.
I once heard somebody describing law enforcement as hours of boredom interspersed with moments of sheer terror.
Oh, yeah.
Does that about cover it?
Oh, yeah, it does, yeah. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Especially in this Mayberry town that we have.
Well, we are lucky.
Do. Yeah, we do. It's one of those things that, like you said, I know we don't have the big city crime that they have all the time, but it does happen. Every once in a while, somebody will come down or somebody will infiltrate our nice little community and cause some problems, and then we have to deal with that.
I was thinking of that. I just reread Tommy Brewster's book, had to do with the Smirker murderers, and I just reread that courtesy of Judith, and as I sat there and read it, I tried to relate this character in his story, in his novel, which is woven around a true story.
Yeah.
And I tried to relate this character, let's see who that was. Human nature being what it is, do we get some outside influence once in a while from some council member who thinks they might be a little smarter than the rest of the guys?
I don't think so. I think
I'm glad to hear that no answer.
Yeah.
Because we've got a pretty good group up there in City Hall.
Oh, they're doing fine.
And they catch a lot of lambasting from this person or that. Some of it deserved, and most of it not deserved. So I'm glad to hear that there's nobody trying to wield any influence on you.
Everybody has their opinions.
It's not going to work anyway. We know that. Your budget is directed from the mayor and the city council? That establishes the work?
The council actually establishes our budget, yes.
Your canine part, is that kind of an expensive item for us to have? And I don't mind if it is.
It is. I mean, the equipment, for instance, we just had to replace all the new state law comes out that we've got to, for any canine vehicles, we have to have alarm system put in that it'll actually notify our dispatch if the heat gets too hot inside the vehicle so the dog doesn't suffocate or die. So, we just had to replace all that equipment. It was about $2,500 just for that equipment to get that. And then we have a yearly fee now that we got to pay to help, because it's got to have a cellular communications system essentially built into it so it can notify dispatch if the heat gets too high in there. It notifies the officer, but it also notifies dispatch at the same time. So that way somebody's always paying attention. That way if the officer's busy or tied up, somebody else will know that the heat's getting too hot in the car, and then the dog may suffer from it. So,
though, you'll excuse me, please. That's almost something you'd know. If the car is closed up and it's a warm summer day in Lincoln, America, it's going to get pretty doggone hot in there. You wouldn't think you'd need beacons and bells and whistles.
Well, it's the problem that you're relying on mechanical systems inside of a vehicle to be on and running, and if for some reason the car dies and the officer doesn't know about it, and the heat goes off, then the temperature starts rising, or the air goes off. So you got the air conditioning running inside the vehicle.
Yeah.
So if for some reason something fails there,
you can't fix stupid.
Yeah.
If somebody would. Now, does the canine go home with an officer?
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
It is.
As opposed to going in the kennel at night and so forth.
Yeah.
That creates a better bond between the officer and the dog.
Yep. Absolutely does.
Well, and it's a learning experience for the dog to get along with a family with kids.
Yeah.
That's a little different than like my life.
Is it difficult to get recruits, Chief? This isn't the most glorious job in the world. It requires a lot of dedication, and going in, you're not going to make a whole bunch of money.
No.
So coming up with recruits got to be kind of a tough situation.
It is. Right now is probably the worst time I've seen since I've been here. So
really,
oh yeah. I mean, we've been trying to get a good, like I said, lateral applications in. Currently, we have the lateral application out. So if anybody's interested, they have 2 years of experience at a current law enforcement agency, they can apply, and hopefully we can get you on our department. But it's just, it's one of those things, we've got good people, but it's hard to retain those good people. Like I said, you got other agencies that are got mass exodus right now. They're paying more, they're paying better. We just lost an officer to Texas because they're paying a lot better. And then, he's probably going to make more money as a patrolman than I am as a chief. But
well, that's kind of too bad.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they're getting take-home cars. They've got the best insurance. We don't have the best insurance in the world. Our families aren't protected, but it's hard to keep people here. I'm stealing people from the county as fast as I can, and the sheriff's mad at me every time I take one. But it's just we're playing that game right now. Like the state police, they're doing what they call a fast track program. So if you've got experience in another agency, they can fast track you through instead of going through the full 6-month academy. It's geared down to like 3 months or something like that. So they've already stole one of ours, almost stole 2 of ours. So I mean, it's just you got this movement right now of officers moving around and creating vacancies everywhere. So trying to get people into this department's been really, really hard. So,
but it begs the question: what's it going to be like as time goes by? Because police officers seem to be the ones now that certain segments of society have decided are dispensable.
Oh yeah, our media hasn't done anything good for us lately. The mainstream media is not the locals. Locals are taking care of us, but those mainstream medias, it's just the narrative that's been put out and what's been going on. It's absolutely terrible for law enforcement, and for guys. Yes, the George Floyd thing, the officer messed up without a doubt. He shouldn't have done what he did. He is not he's one of the exceptions, and we don't want to paint all law enforcement as bad just because of that one incident. So.
Right. Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, there are people who would do that, and that's just the way it is. 648-5510. Chief Paul Adams with us this morning.
Back in the olden days, when we were kids, my dad was a volunteer fireman, and the police and fire halls were in the same building. So when we'd go with my dad up to the fire hall, we'd see the policeman, and I can still remember Toby Johnson. We just thought he walked on water. He was a policeman, and we thought he was just the finest. But then our parents had taught us that the policeman was there strictly to help you. I mean, if you've lost your mom, go to the policeman. He'll find her. That was how we were all raised, I think.
Yeah. That was a Mayberry-esque thing. Again, how have the new facilities worked out on 5th Street, Chief?
So far, absolutely wonderful. So
Lord knows you needed it so bad.
Oh yeah, it's been really nice. It's helped out a lot. It's really kept us, especially with the COVID thing, kept kind of separated better. So had we all been bunched up in that little bitty space that we had at the sheriff's department, if one person got COVID, everybody's going to get it.
Yeah.
Here, at least we have the separation now that we need to keep that going.
Well, we have the advantage here in Logan County of having an outstanding sheriff, and I'm certain he has a great department. And so the two agencies, the city and the county agencies, I suspect they meld together very well.
Oh yeah, we do. We work together all the time. So
it takes a lot of that.
We're backing them up, and they're backing us up left and right. So it takes that effort and that good camaraderie between the departments. So.
But it's important for both sides.
Yes, it is.
the matter of street arrest, is that pretty common anymore? Somebody going down the street, maybe going a little heavier. How do your officers approach that? Just use good common sense, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, every situation, it's always dictated on the circumstances. So, we don't... I guess I'm a little bit confused on your question. Are you talking about like an intoxicated person walking down the street, or just
let's say a motorist, and maybe he's going a little heavy down 17th Street. And,
yeah, I mean, if
you got to watch that because for safety's sake. But there's another side of it that you want to kind of maybe say, well, maybe this is not so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, 17th Street's now Woodlawn, right? You're going way back.
They done renamed it.
I'm always looking at my rearview mirror, make sure he's not back there. But I've noticed one thing. Your officer are unfailingly polite.
Good.
And when they interact with our citizens, which of course is a big thing.
We always come into that any situation we're always going to be polite and we're going to be respectful. Mm-hmm. It's when
that's got to be
other person when the other person becomes unrespectable or not listening or argumentative. That's we of course have to raise our level to try to match and try to de-escalate. We try to come up and come back down. We always try to bring it back down if we can, and there's sometimes it just doesn't happen. So
you're kind of part psychiatrist. You're trying to figure out people.
Oh yeah.
There are con artists.
We almost need psychiatrists on the department. That'd be great.
There are plenty of con artists out there who will try to talk themselves out of anything, but they don't. When a guy gets stopped, he knows automatically whether he should be stopped or whether he shouldn't be. That's just common sense. We all know that.
Well, there's the true criminal, and there's the people that, wait, I shouldn't be doing this. It's like when you see a police officer, your inclination is to look down at your speedometer and let off on the gas pedal, right?
Yeah.
That's the good person in all of us, right? But there's some people there's the true criminal, the true evil out there that don't let off. They keep going.
But if you just think a moment ahead, what if somebody's child or even their dog ran out in front of you and there you are zipping along at 45 instead of 30?
Oh yeah.
What can happen?
Well, that's the problem is the more your speed increase, that means the longer it's going to take to get you stopped.
Yeah.
That's why we don't have a lot of fatalities, knock on wood, inside the city of Lincoln because, most of the speed limits are 25 and 30 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. It isn't until you get to Woodlawn, or not Woodlawn, but east or west of the old 66 that you get to those higher speeds where we've had more of our serious accidents. But if you're keeping your speeds where they should be in town, then you have enough time to stop and to address those type of situations. Like you said, if you're doing 45 down to 25 mile per hour zone in a residential area, and a kid pops out, you're not going to have time to stop. So it's always best.
And even on the lighter side, do you know what would it cost you? You can drive as fast as you can afford. Now, for me, it's 30. Unless Jim gives me a big raise, maybe. But at any rate, what does it cost you to go 45 in a 30?
Well, it costs you a whole lot more now than it has in the past.
And that's
I'm sure.
That's all right.
It was only a $75 citation. But now I think you're paying over $200 by the time you court costs and fees and everything else. So.
Chief Adams,
that's steep, man.
Does the danger factor change as the clock moves towards darkness?
Well, usually when the clock moves towards that midnight hour, it's the alcohol and the other drugs that have been consumed throughout the evenings that cause the problems because people they're not rational anymore. They're not thinking clearly. So that switch of I can do the good and the bad switch in front of your head that says I should or shouldn't do things is off. That's gone by the wayside. Usually by about 9 o'clock if you've been started early. So that's usually the problems we've had.
The later it gets in the day, the more omnipotent some of these people get, don't they?
Yeah.
When you have a recruit come back from your training position over in Champaign, How long is it a period? Is it before you consider him a full-fledged qualified officer to be turned loose on his own?
Well, that's...
Depend on the individual?
It really does depend on the
Surely.
issue. I mean, there's some officers that take a little bit longer, and there's some that they pick it up real quick. I mean, one of the biggest things we do is you got to know your city streets. So every street in town, you got to know how to get to it or know where it should be. We don't know it doesn't have to be exact, but at least you should know the proper route to get there. So it takes, for some people, it takes a little bit longer. So, but usually about 3 months is what it takes.
Mr. Ash has dropped me a question here, and frankly, I hadn't thought about asking that question here. Even with COVID with us every day, does the Lincoln Police Department enforce the mask mandate?
No, that's a good question.
Thank you, Jim.
Technically, we're not the enforcers of that. It's the health department that enforces the mask mandates. And we're not really, the way the laws have kind of come down and trickled down to us from the state is, so if you're out in public as an individual, and as long as you're over 6 feet away from each other, then you don't need a mask. If you're grouped into within, like, say, for instance, you guys would need a mask. But in a business is the only place that the Department of Health can really hold people accountable. So that's why the businesses are required to make sure that people have their masks on when they're inside. So we get involved if the business tells you to leave and you don't leave, then you now have broken the law in regards to trespassing. So
Okay.
we arrest you for the trespassing issue, not for the mask issue. So that's when we get involved. But technically, it's the business responsibility to make sure the patrons inside the business or the group or the organization are making their people that are inside those businesses or those buildings to wear their masks.
So does that mean if you stop somebody in their car, that you have to wear a mask when you go up to talk to them through the window?
I've mandated to my officers, if you're within 6 feet of anybody, you need to have your mask on. Because we don't need officers being sick, because if one guy gets sick, my whole shift's going to be off.
Oh, gosh, yes.
You know, this business has influenced a lot of us. We have to adjust to some changes.
Oh, yeah.
But the bottom line is that it's not just here in Logan County, it's the world over as far as this pandemic is concerned. So we just have to accept the fact for what it is and adjust accordingly.
Yeah, and people need to stop thinking about themselves and think about others.
Exactly.
And that's what it comes down to.
Exactly, that's the point.
Because you may not even know you have it yet, and you can spread it to somebody that is very susceptible to it, or because our elderly ages have been, unfortunately, can't handle this type of virus. And
Chief, have we seen an uptick in shoplifting? Is there any change in that at all?
I mean, we've always had a problem with shoplifting.
It's always been that ever-present problem.
Been there, yes. For some reason, people think they can just steal, and what it does, it drives up the price for everybody else. So.
Well, exactly. Yeah, they build that into the pricing because they're going to get at the end of the year going to have so much to write off. But it's got to be a pretty bold person who walk out of Walmart with something else stuck in their jacket that they know that they're stealing.
Well, Walmart's done a really good job with all the cameras and everything out there they have. So you can't get very far without getting caught on a camera out there. So.
No.
Well, and that's fine. If it isn't yours, keep your hands off of it.
Exactly.
And if you can't abide by that, and then you have to pay the piper, that's all.
There's still plenty of jobs out there to go
I
get a
suspect
living
this
and
is
buy your own stuff.
I suspect that this is an occurrence that doesn't happen. I hope it's an occurrence that doesn't happen very often. You get a young man, or a lady for that matter, been to the school over at Champaign or Urbana, and they started routine patrols with you, and all of a sudden they just, oh boy, this isn't for me. Is any of that at all? Not alone much. Is there any of that at all where
What we do
I
here,
give up after 6 weeks?
Yeah, we if you apply, what we do is we make you go through at least a ride-along program. So we make you ride a couple times with officers. We don't want to make sure that you're going to be, you get exposed to it, you see what we got to do, you see the things that we have to engage in, so that way, hopefully you have a good understanding of what you're getting into before we send you to the academy, because the academy is expensive, and the Illinois Training Standards Board, which is what helps pay for that training, they're not paying for that training anymore because they got their funds cut. So it's really on the city now to pay for the entire amount of that training now. So,
Chief, before we rock off here, I want to throw the mic open to you if you have any comments that you'd like to make to our citizenry, or tell us about any problems that are bothering you as a chief of police of Lincoln, Illinois.
well, I do want to express my sympathies to Ryan Williams and the
Yes.
loss of
Oh,
their
my
Logan County
goodness.
Health
Oh,
Department.
I've been very depressed.
Yeah, he's one of our detectives was his brother-in-law, so it hit home. So he was a good guy, and
Oh, my.
it's unfortunate that happened. So I just want to express my sympathies for that. But
Thank you for that.
other than that, again, we have our lateral hire list out right now. So if anybody has 2 years of experience with another agency, they can apply. And we have oral interviews, I think the 12th, and we have to have your applications in by the 7th. The applications and everything is online on our lincolnil.gov website. So I think that's all I've got.
That's very nice. We appreciate your time coming out there, Chief Adams. As you listen, both of you listeners out there, pay close attention now. Pay strict attention when you see some of our men or ladies. How many we have on the ladies on the staff now, sir?
2. We got 2.
All right.
Ladies, yep.
And you see one of our ladies or one of our officers in blue, thank them and be sincere about it, and don't give them a hard time. We appreciate the work that they're doing out there. It's not an easy job. So, Chief Adams, we appreciate the time you take with us, and we'll close with be the reason somebody smiles today. Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Paul.
Bill. Appreciate it.